What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. That's right, the only sports podcast. I'm Will. This is the solo show. We are late today because my arm that usually holds up my microphone, I just broke it and I couldn't get it back together. So I was messing around with it. And then I was like, you know what? I just got to start the show. So I'm doing the stand, just the regular stand, holding it myself. Makes me feel very old school. So if my audio is weird this episode, where it just feels like it's dipping in and out, that's because I keep moving it away from my mouth because I'm not used to this. But we are here today. Usually we do what the um Usually we do the power rankings or we do the Super Bowl bubble. We are going to look at the Super Bowl bubble because I thought it would be interesting to see what it used to be and what it is now. So what it used to be is courtesy of our Facebook page because I did not save the original. So go look at our Facebook page. Go follow us on Facebook, Only Sports Podcast. Only Sports Podcast on pretty much anything. So if you want to follow us on wherever you want to see our clips, I put clips of the show and then obviously our different shorts we record before the show. So you want to go check those out. It's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, TikTok, X, just any one of those. But let's look at what the beginning of the season. So this was and it just cut me. There we go. This is what it used to look like at the beginning of the season. I don't want to do that. Why are we? There we go. What it used to look like at the beginning of the season, obviously courtesy of our Facebook page. But so this was the Super Bowl bubble at the start of the season. This is what back in August. So this was posted August 27th, 2025. So in the Super Bowl bubble, we legitimately had none of the teams that were making it to the Super Bowl or that currently have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. The weird thing is we only had one, and of all the teams, the one team that was a basically preseason could make it to the Super Bowl was the Broncos team. So that's what it looked like at the very start of the season. Obviously, Chiefs didn't make the playoffs. Ravens didn't make the playoffs. Packers did. Bucks could have if they would have just beaten the Panthers. Obviously, didn't. Eagles did make it to the Super Bowl last year, but this year they just made it to the playoffs. Got blown out. I count that as a blowout against the 49ers because of how bad that 49ers team was, and I still can't believe we lost to it. We have some people in the chat saying hi. What's going on, everybody? Next up, we had the Vikings. Obviously didn't make it. Steelers did make it and then lost. And then the Chargers, who also made it and lost. Lions didn't make it. Commanders didn't make it. So there's our look at what the first season or the first preseason Super Bowl bubble was. So not my most I guess illustrious, my proudest moment when it came to the Super Bowl bubble. This was now at the start of the playoffs. So again, or no, I don't even know when this was, but this was I think one of the mid-season Super Bowl bubble. So the mid-season Super Bowl bubble obviously looked better because that was when the Colts were really hot. This was before the Daniel Jones injury. Chiefs, this was the part where it was like, they're coming back. They have it all figured out. They got all their pieces back. And then I obviously had the Eagles. I think that was after that Rams victory. So it was one of those things where it was like, we're riding high. We beat the Rams again. Rams are supposed to be the best team in the NFL, blah, 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 blah. So now let's get to what was officially the latest. Oh no, that's another thing we have to do. Sorry, this show is again my microphone stand breaking right before this. That really threw me for a loop. It just it just like crumbled in my hands, and I hate this thing. It's like one of those arm things that attaches to the side, and yeah, it just literally fell apart on me. So I'm a bit frazzled right now. Okay, here we go. This is I have to download this. So as we wait for that to download, let's take a look at what this one was. So again, I think the most interesting thing about the Super Bowl bubble at about I want to say this was mid-season, about the midway point, was Seahawks had emerged as one of the best teams in the NFC. But again, everybody was still waiting, including myself, for the Darnold meltdown. This was at a time where the Bucks were uh in contention for the best NFC team, and Baker Mayfield just had that, MVP caliber season, but the injuries were piling up, all that kind of stuff. Packers, this was can Jordan Love finally ascend to, one of the best, some people already think he is the best NFC quarterback. And then we get to the center, and again, Chiefs and Colts, that really felt like a point in the season where not only are they viable options, but they were actually kind of the favorites, because again, it was Chiefs was, their record's not good, but they're getting everybody back. Just wait till this offense, starts humming. And then Bills, obviously always with Josh Allen, you're like, it could be, what is it? It could be this could be the year for Josh Allen. People were saying that until the playoffs started, which now that finally downloaded. So this is the Super Bowl bubble, the wild card edition. This was the one at the start of the playoffs. And again, it was so close between Bears and Packers. They actually shared one. And then obviously Bears won that game and went on to lose to the Rams. But at the start of it, every team that is in the championship weekend is in the middle. Yeah. So the Super Bowl bubble, at least at the start of the playoffs, we got that right. Which, looking at the bubble again at the start of the season, we had no teams that are currently in the NFC or AFC championship in that bubble. And it's kind of actually shocking that the Rams were not in there, because again, Casino and I were high on the Rams, but I think it was, no, you know what it was at the start of the season? Remember, it was Matt Stafford has that back injury he's dealing with. So that was why we kept the Rams out of it, because we didn't think he could stay healthy for the entire season. Not only did he stay healthy for the entire season, he actually ended up having an MVP caliber season when it comes to, he's most likely going to win MVP, especially when the awards finalists, which we're going to talk about in a second, came out and they did that thing. Whoever puts these, voting and lists together where it's like, Drake May and Matthew Stafford are MVP candidates, but only Drake May is a candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. And it's like, that's interesting. I wonder how this vote's going to go. Could it be that Stafford's going to win MVP and then Drake May wins, Offensive Player of the Year? It sure looks that way, but we're going to talk about those in a second. I just thought it was interesting that even at the start of the playoffs, these were the teams that we had the question marks about. Obviously, Eagles, 49ers, Bears, Packers ended up being correct. Probably the Bears should have been closer to, being actually in the bubble, because they were so close in that Rams game. But on the outside, it was Chargers didn't stand a chance, especially with that O-line. The Texans didn't stand a chance with that offense. And then Steelers just didn't stand a chance with that offense and defense. Now, in the bubble, again, the one that the loss that shocks me the most, especially after seeing what the Bills did in that Broncos game, is I cannot believe the Jaguars didn't even win one. Like, they were the dark horse pick. They were the team that I feel like everybody was scared of. And then the Bills just went in there, never looked intimidated. I mean, why would they? Because they have Josh Allen. But then to lose to the Broncos the next week in OT is just again, for Bills fans. Sorry to bring it up, but that's just, heartbreaking. So we did have them. I think we did have Patriots, Seahawks, Rams as like the three teams that have been alternating, being number one in not only the power rankings, but in the actual Super Bowl bubble for the past like 2 months now. Jaguars and Broncos were the new ones we put in. So now Broncos, obviously different story if Stidham wasn't starting. But again, lot of talk about how it's just going to be Patriots in the Super Bowl without having to play the game. Like, we should just put them in there immediately. So again, I always vote for, and I always root for the team in that situation that is just going to be the big underdog, because again, football and sports in general are built on dynasties, but the best stories that people remember are built on the underdogs, right? And when everybody says there's no chance, there's no chance, there's no chance, you get stuff like Miracle on Ice. You get stuff like Hostetler winning with the Giants against the Bills. You get stuff like Nick Foles winning the Super Bowl, right? It's just, I feel like sports are built on those stories as much as they're built on dynasties. And I don't think anybody's thinking this current version of the Patriots is going to be, the next dynasty in the making. Or I think at least football fans in general are thinking, dear God, please don't have another Patriots dynasty where they have Brady, they have Belichick, and then they just are bad to decent for 5 years, and then all of a sudden immediately just build another dynasty. Like, would that just make every other sports fan in the other 31 other NFL cities just go, what are we like? How did we allow this to happen? We thought it was bad where the Chiefs were, going to every AFC championship game. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, the monkey's paw wishes the Chiefs are bad again, but here come the Patriots. And there's just, dear Lord, please, I can't, especially with Casino, I can't suffer through another Patriots Super Bowl. I just can't. But again, the Broncos, Stidham, I mean, it'd be a good story. But before we talk about that, let's talk first about the NFL awards. The finalists came out. Then we'll talk about those championship games, get our last thoughts on those, and then we'll also talk about the newest coaching hires. So for everybody who's watching right now, send a comment, say what's up, send your topics you want to talk about. We're going to do a short show today, not only because I joined late because my damn mic stand breaking, but I also have to pick my kid up from the bus in about 40 minutes. So we're going to do, that would be little. Usually we try to go an hour and a half. It's going to be shorter than that today. So get your questions, comments in. I'll read them on the show. You guys know how it goes. But let's see with right now. So this is interesting only for these two awards right here. So most valuable player is I feel like 4, and then one guy snuck in there where I just feel like you go, oh, I didn't think he would be the 5th option if we were picking, the 5 most valuable players in the league this year. So the first 3 are obvious. It's Rams, Matthew Stafford, Patriots, Drake May, 49ers, Christian McCaffrey. I think those right off the bat, just those 3 for most valuable player make the most sense, right? The next 2, I would go, I don't even know if those were the next 2 quarterbacks I would choose specifically based on what they did this year. And those 2 would be quarterback Josh Allen for the Bills and then Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback for the Jaguars. I really do feel like those 2 stuck out to me as just like, were those 2 really the other 2? Were like, if we're going top 5 quarterbacks this season, just based on stats, wins, all that kind of stuff, we're going Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. I feel like with Trevor Lawrence, you can at least make the case. Josh Allen, again, we were doing the math and we were doing, stats between him and Bo Nix before that Broncos game. They had nearly identical stats. And again, Josh Allen didn't win his division because Drake May did. So Josh Allen, yes, I still think he's the best quarterback in the league. But if we're just going per season accolade based on just this one season, like don't do the whole gambit of his career, because again, that was basically what last year's award for giving him the MVP was. This year, if we're just going season stats, he had like 25 touchdowns, which again is not awful, but it's also not where you're just going, oh, of course. I mean, you got to have Josh Allen as one of the 5 best quarterbacks this year. So if you just want to go, obviously passing yards, I think is dumb, even though that's how they do basically offense and defense. But still, even in passing yards, he was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He was the 11th best quarterback when it came to when it came to passing yards. When it came to passing touchdowns, why would this not have passing touchdowns? What is this? Oh, can I scroll over? It's not letting me scroll over. Okay, cool. Let me. Oh, that's because why am I zoomed in 100%? Okay, there we go. So when it came to touchdowns and interceptions this year, touchdowns was obviously Matthew Stafford with 46, but the next two would be Jared Goff or the Drake May. So Jared Goff is the one that, again, he has more yards than Josh Allen. He has 10 more touchdowns. He has two less interceptions, and they have the same completion percentage. So, again, if it's just based on taking your team to the playoffs, it's like, yeah, I get that, but it's not. MVP, all that kind of stuff. Again, it's not even Josh Allen has no shot to win this, right? Because it's going to be between Drake May and Matthew Stafford, as it should be. Their numbers are very similar, even though if you take out the rushing yards and touchdowns, which I don't know why you would, but if you do, then Matthew Stafford has 15 more touchdowns and 11 more touchdowns than either Jared Goff or Drake May, who would be 2 and 3. So again, I think it should be, if we're just going what happened this season, just individual player wise, you would have to go Stafford, Drake May, Josh Allen, and then I guess Trevor Lawrence is there, but he had 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 4,000 yards. Like he had, I mean, again, Dak Prescott had more, but if, again, we're going with the winning and all that stuff, I don't feel like you can put Jared Goff or all right. I'm back. Sorry about that. So, what is it? It's that damn cord on the back of the computer just keeps, again, I've never had a computer in my life where the Ethernet cable port just slips out. Just keeps falling out. Nothing I can do to just keep it in there. It doesn't even click in. Just you just slide it in and then it just sits there. I have no idea how to fix that, no idea what it means, all that kind of stuff. So the comments I lost because I left and technically had to come back, but we are back. I'll cut that out of the audio show. So we'll just resume from here. So if you were doing most valuable player, again, I don't think you can put more than two quarterbacks. If the criteria is numbers combined with winning combined with this season, the only two quarterbacks that by that logic can be on this list are Matthew Stafford and Drake May. Because again, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott would be next when it comes to numbers. Neither of those guys made the playoffs, so they don't fit the criteria. Trevor Lawrence, again, he had 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and a 60% completion percentage, which is fine. And his team was very good. But again, I don't think those are MVP quality numbers or MVP caliber numbers when you put that Drake May had 400 yards more than him. Matthew Stafford had 700 yards more than them. Both Stafford and May threw less interceptions, more touchdowns. So right there, that takes Lawrence out. And then obviously Josh Allen, that also takes out because, again, the numbers are basically identical to Bo Nix. Bo Nix was the number one seed in probably the tougher conference, right? Because they had to deal with, or he had to deal with both the Chiefs and the Chargers. I know the Chiefs weren't anything this year, but still having to deal with the Chiefs when Allen has to deal with, the Jets and the Dolphins. So again, if you could put Bo Nix in there, I wouldn't. Instead, I would put, I don't know how you don't put either Puka or SGA or SGA. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Again, he had 1,700 yards, 10, or he had almost 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, and Puka Nacua had 1,700 yards, 10 touchdowns. So both those guys, and then you would have, again, you would avoid the whole narrative of, oh, the MVP just goes to quarterback. So you would have clearly the best two quarterbacks this year based on records, playoffs, numbers, individual stats, all that kind of stuff with Matthew Stafford, Drake May. You'd have the two best wide receivers that just so happen to be on the two teams in the NFC championships in Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then you would have the 49ers running back of Christian McCaffrey there, who was the ultimate, dual threat, not only running back, but wide receiver. Hell, you even could put James Cook on there, who had 12 touchdowns, 1,600 yards. Or would you honestly put Jonathan Taylor at 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns? But see, that's what I'm saying. You put McCaffrey, who had 1,200, and then also in receiving, he had another 924. And again, he had 7 touchdowns receiving and 10 touchdowns rushing. So I don't know. Just thoughts on what we think of the MVP. Again, it's going to be between Stafford and Drake May. This is just a pointless discussion. But again, all these awards are pointless. Like, who cares? But I do think MVP is the most probably prestigious, and outside of Coach of the Year, really the only two awards that people care about outside of, I guess rookie. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, because at least with those, it's like you get one shot, right? Just your rookie year, nothing after that. And then no other shot at that, obviously, because you're never a rookie again. But most valuable players, Stafford, May, Allen, McCaffrey, Lawrence. I think it 100% comes down to Stafford and Drake May. I still think I would give it to Matthew Stafford just based on the numbers alone. But Casito does have a point. Stafford did finish as a 5th seed, even though they're in the NFC Championship game. Drake May finished as the 2 seed. But again, if they would have beat the Raiders, I know it was week 1, but still, they would have beat the team that has the worst pick in the NFL draft. They would have been the number 1 seed. So again, I feel like you can ding as many of Matthew Stafford's like yeah buts as you can with Drake May's yeah buts. And my yeah buts for Drake May, I feel like, are higher than Matthew Stafford, but obviously they should be number 1 and 2. Now, Coach of the Year, I do think they have the right candidates. So it's Bears coach Ben Johnson, Jaguars coach Liam Cohen, Seahawks coach Mike McDonald, 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan, and then Patriots coach Mike Vrabel. So now, again, you can make the case that Vrabel should be Coach of the Year because he took the team from worst to first, right? They were a 4-win team last year, and now they have a shot to go to the Super Bowl. You could make the case that the Bears last year were 5-12. Then they were 1 game away from being in the NFC Championship game. Seahawks obviously turned it around from not so dire as, the Patriots and the Bears, but still in that same class. Jaguars, same thing. And then 49ers, Kyle Shanahan. Again, Kyle Shanahan gets a lot of shit on this show from me specifically, but Kyle Shanahan deserves every accolade for what he did this season with that 49ers team. Not only getting to the playoffs, winning a playoff team with basically 2nd, 3rd, 4th stringers all along that offense and defense. So just in terms of holding that team together, I don't think he should win Coach of the Year, but he should definitely be a contender for Coach of the Year because, again, as a guy I'm not a really big fan of, that's one of the most impressive coaching seasons I think that is ever going to be talked about, but it's not going to be, it's not a thing you could look at on the stat sheet. You just watch it throughout the season and you just go, how is this team not only good, how with 3 weeks left in the season were they potentially the number 1 seed in the NFC? Like, that is impressive. But I do think Coach of the Year, it's really going to be a toss-up between Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel. I mean, if they haven't given out these awards yet, and I do think as much as people are like, it's a regular season award, what you do in the postseason matters. If Mike Vrabel takes this Patriots team that, again, last year was a 4-win team to the Super Bowl in his first year, how is he not Coach of the Year? How's he not Coach of the Year? Again, the Bears last year finished 5-12. So they were at least 1 win better last year, and then they got 1 round less as far as the Patriots did. So I think my coach of the year, honestly, would be Mike Vrabel. I think that that would be who I would be because again, they have a real shot. And I mean, that you see that on ESPN where it's like Patriots Broncos, and it's like Patriots have a 64% chance of going to the Super Bowl. And you're just like, Jesus, again, Patriots are back. They're back, and I hate it. Offensive player of the year. This is where, you go, oh, Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua, Falcons Bijan Robinson, also another guy you could have put in MVP contention. 49ers, 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey, Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba, Patriots quarterback Drake May. The only reason Drake May is there over Matthew Stafford is because they're going to give the MVP to Matthew Stafford and then going to give the Offensive Player of the Year award to Drake May. So it feels like, oh, actually, both quarterbacks won an award, even though everybody knows that MVP is the one that matters. Not that it wouldn't be cool to be Offensive Player of the Year. I'm sure for most of these players, I'm sure they have contract, incentives and all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to just break it down to who was the Offensive Player of the Year, how is it not Christian McCaffrey? He was one of the best wide receivers in the league and one of the best running backs in the league simultaneously, like both in terms of yards and touchdowns for both. So he would clearly have to be Offensive Player of the Year, but I think that one's going to be Drake May. Next one is also interesting. Defensive Player of the Year, Texans defensive end Will Anderson Jr., Broncos linebacker Nick Bonito, Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, Lions defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, Packers edge Micah Parsons. That seems weird to me. Again, yeah, if this was, again, most impactful, most best at these positions just as a whole, yes, but it's not. It's of the year. It's not best defensive player. It's defensive player of the year. So when it comes to defensive player of the year, how can you have Micah Parsons on this list? Because again, he was injured for what I feel like half the season, at least half the season. I think he went out in week 10, maybe a little later than that. But again, this one is Will Anderson had a hell of a year. He almost single-handedly won that Patriots game with just dominating Will Campbell and almost forcing, it felt like 10 Drake May fumbles, because you go back and watch that game, and I was watching the highlights this morning. It was like Will Anderson was a second or a half second or a half step almost every Drake May pass from either sacking him or knocking the ball out of his hand. Now, again, I know he's going against a rookie, but that he was pretty much single-handedly the reasons that the Texans got every turnover they did in that game, every pressure in that game, every sack in that game. He was an absolute monster. Same with Broncos, Nick Bonito, one of the best, if not the best current linebacker in the league, and a big reason why that Denver's defense is so ferocious, especially in that, right behind the defensive line, where I just feel like nobody can move the ball against that Broncos defense in the middle of the field. But I do think, again, if you have three defensive ends, how is the defensive player of the year the guy who didn't just break the single season sack record of Myles Garrett? Now, again, we judge defensive players a lot differently than we do offensive players, because with offensive players, we connect it to winning, especially with the MVP, and kind of sort of with the offensive player, where it's like, well, how can you be an impactful, offensive player if your team isn't winning? Which is the argument to why Dak Prescott's not one of the MVP or offensive player of the years, even though, he had the same basic numbers as Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, when it comes to defensive player, it's got to be Myles Garrett. I mean, he won this single season sack record with 23. Now, again, yes, it took another game, but there's also games this season where you had 3 sacks, 5 sacks in a game, well deserved, and obviously no asterisk next to that one because 23 is insane. Offensive rookie of the year, we have Giants quarterback Jackson Dart, Buccaneers wide receiver Emeka Mbuka, Patriots wide receiver Travion Henderson, Panthers wide receiver Tedero McMillan, and Saints quarterback Tyler Shuck. So I think Shuck and Dart have to be out of this because, again, Dart, it's because of injuries. Shuck, it's because he just didn't start enough games. So I just don't think the numbers are there, and especially the accolades are not there as opposed to what the other three did, which again, Patriots, Panthers, Buccaneers, outside of the Buccaneers guy, but he was really playing in a week 18, regular season playoff game. But Patriots wide receiver Travion Henderson, he was completely a ghost for the first half of the season. I know because he was on my fantasy team and he was always on my bench until I dropped him. And then almost immediately after I dropped him, then all of a sudden he started being a running back that was getting points and winning people titles. And that's probably why I came in fourth or fifth or whatever it was. Bad season. My team was decimated by the million injuries. But I'll tell you who did help me, and that was Tetairoa McMillan. Tetairoa McMillan had a fantastic season, and one of those seasons where you go, oh, they just got their guy, right? Like the Panthers, the whole thing about them was they had no weapons, right? Their best weapon last year was Adam Thielen, I believe. And then all of a sudden, Tetairoa McMillan comes in from, I think it was, Arizona? Wasn't he from Arizona State, one of those two schools, and then just comes in and completely dominates, has a regular season. I mean, these numbers are insane. Again, for a rookie on the Panthers, he had 70 receptions, 1,014 yards, and 7 touchdowns. That is astounding. And then Mbuka, again, should have ran away with this, but he I think he did miss a couple games, or he was just absent in a lot of those. Coming out of Ohio State, he was supposed to be just a shoo-in for Rookie of the Year, and it was 63 receptions, 938 yards, 6 touchdowns. So again, he had it, and then Tetairoa McMillan just consistent throughout the entire season. Didn't deal with injuries, didn't really deal with what Ibuka had to deal with on the Bucks, which was, oh yeah, there's other wide receivers. The Panthers were like, we got nobody else, it's all you. And he made the most of it. So my pick would be Tetairoa McMillan for that. Oh no, I just lost that page. So he should win for me Rookie of the Year. And then, oops. NFL awards. Where was I just at? There you go. So he should win. Oh yeah. Now, comeback player of the year, we have Stephon Diggs, New England Patriots wide receiver, Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end for the Lions, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback for the Jaguars, Christian McCaffrey, San Francisco 49ers, and then Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys quarterback. So again, I feel like this way you could do it basically 3 ways. You can go, well, let's give it to Stephon Diggs because he was the number 1 option on a team that's in the AFC Championship, right? He made, you could say, the second or third biggest difference, probably the third biggest difference after Coach and Drake May for turning that basically offense around, right? So you can make the case, oh, it's Stephon Diggs. Aiden Hutchinson, obviously just coming back from injury, and then so you can have the guys come back from injury, which I believe is Aiden Hutchinson and Trevor Lawrence, or you can have or actually it would be Dak Prescott too. And did Christian McCaffrey, was he injured last year too? I think he was. So you can have 4 categories, right? Or 4 people in that category right there where it's coming back from injury. Or you can have, hey, Christian McCaffrey, sorry we didn't give you MVP. Sorry we didn't give you Offensive Player of the Year. Like this is, we have to give you something. Right? Like this is the basic consolation 3rd place award where you just go, listen, it was a tough year. We should have been able to give you at least one of the other ones, but we couldn't. So we're giving you this one instead. Right? So it just becomes one of those things where you just go, well, I guess like just, you can hang that, what is it? Hang your head on that. Christian McCaffrey. Oh yeah, he missed 13 games last year. McCaffrey, it's every year. It's either he plays the entire season or he's in and out of every game. So last one I wanted to talk about, which I thought was an interesting one. And it felt like, is this new? I don't remember this being an option for assistant coach of the year. We have Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores, Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. So again, you can make the case that what Vic Fangio did with that Eagles defense, what Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores did, and what the Broncos defensive coordinator did was they took, I guess with the Vikings and the Eagles, they took units that lost a bunch of people last year. I know the Vikings lost some big hitters. Obviously, Eagles, as an Eagles fan, uh, I was thinking, can this defense be anywhere near as good as it was last year? And basically, it was. It was almost as good towards the end of the season as it was last season. And then Vikings, again, Brian Flores was getting head coaching offers, and he just said, no, I'm staying with the Vikings. Probably it had to do with the Miami thing and the issues that caused, but we'll also say it's probably because he's so trusted and respected in that Vikings organization that he was also like, why would I want to leave? Like, we got a real shot. Again, all we need is a quarterback, because when they had one, they were a 14-win team. So again, Sam Darnold, if you're a believer or not, I still don't know if I am. I think I am at this point. I think it's been 2 seasons. I think we could finally say he's good. I mean, he's in the NFC Championship. So, but again, he also has 20 plus turnovers on the season. So maybe don't count your chickens before they hatch, but whatever. And then Seahawks and Patriots, speaking of Sam Darnold, it really just comes down to the leaps and bounds those offenses made with those two guys. I know Clint Kubiak is getting, I think he's getting head coaching offers, but obviously he can't take it. Or I think he is one of those, what is it? He's one of those guys where it's like, could he potentially be the one that goes to the Raiders or the Browns or some of these other teams that just feel like they're not really interviewing everybody because, again, he's still in the playoffs? Patriots, Josh McDaniels, I don't think he has to worry about that. He has, I think, had 2 bites at the coaching apple, the head coaching apple in both Vegas and Denver. And I think everybody has just kind of been like, oh, yeah, he's not a head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator. So Nick Overman is in. He says, people are so QB driven, man. It's the ultimate team sport. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting at with the, what is it, MVP candidates, where it's like, of really the what, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 of the 5 most valuable players this year were quarterbacks. Like, again, I don't think Josh Allen or Trevor Lawrence have the numbers even on their own teams. Like, if you're going the Bills MVP this season, how would it not be James Cook? Because again, James Cook was the difference between what made this Bills team, where it was like, they finally have a running game. They're finally, a threat to win it all. This could be the best Bills team. Like, he was the one that was the difference from the Josh Allen teams that have been 0-5 this year previous in the playoffs. And then again, Trevor Lawrence, yes, the team was good, but they were one of the best rushing teams, had one of the best defenses, and his numbers were fine. But there was like 6 other quarterbacks who had more yards, more touchdowns, all that kind of stuff. So Nick Overman also says, where would Mahomes be if he was drafted by the Jets at 20 and then went to Carolina when they were a dumpster fire? Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. But again, with Sam Darnold, I've told you, I've come around to Sam Darnold being a good quarterback, but also this year, why he is not in the most valuable player contention is he does have 20 plus turnovers. Like, he is the player in the league with the current most turnovers. So that's where you kind of have to be like, yeah, he's obviously better than he was with the Jets or Carolina or when he went to the Niners. And he had basically he basically had the exact same season this year with the Seahawks as he did with the Vikings last year. So obviously he's a good quarterback, but the issue with him is he doesn't show up in big games and he turns the ball over a lot. This year, it's also, you look at the big games and it's like, yeah, he didn't really do anything. I mean, he didn't have to, but what is it? He didn't have to do anything, but yeah, he still has a lot of turnovers. Yeah, there's good players with turnovers. Take Brett Favre. Dude, love trying to throw it in triple coverage. Well, yeah, I mean, the Brett Favre ended his career throwing into triple coverage when they needed a field goal to on that Vikings team. Like that, you go back, I always see that clip because obviously I follow a bunch of sports accounts and stuff. I always see the one that always gets in circulation, especially around playoff time, where it's just like this Vikings team, people forget how stacked it was. And it just goes through the whole roster, and you're just like, man, that team was loaded. Adrian Peterson in his prime, Brett Favre having just one of the best, older season quarterbacks ever. That was before, Tom Brady got there. And it was Tom Brady got to that stage. I mean, like the old man stage. And it was just uh that Saints team, again, they had them on the ropes. If that Vikings team would have went to the Super Bowl, Brett Favre would have had a second Super Bowl or shot at the title. I really think they would have won it. And then how much would that change, when we talk about Aaron Rodgers as versus Brett Favre? But I do think in the next 2 weeks, Casino and I are going to be doing, because again, it becomes one of those things where, especially when you're doing a sports podcast, where it's just like, all right, we do three shows a week, and we have a 2-week window between these championship games and the Super Bowl. So it's like, how many times can you talk about the same game? Especially over the course of, it would be 6 shows. So it'd be like, how many times do you break this down? Do you go position by position, player by player? I don't know. I feel like it's also a chance in those 2 weeks to do some shows where we just talk about, again, he's a Patriots fan, I'm an Eagles fan. We can talk about our favorite Super Bowls our teams have been in, favorite Super Bowls our teams haven't been in. I just think we're going to do, a more retrospective look at just the Super Bowl in general. And I watched a great video this morning, which was, oh shit, they've changed their name like 50 times, but I think it's by Secret Base. I can't remember what that YouTube channel is, but it was who had the best run to the Super Bowl, like who had the best Super Bowl run, because and obviously that's a talking point, because we talk about Gaming with Hodder says, yo, remember me? You always ask this. Yes, I do remember you. You've asked me like the last 3 times. I always remember you. Your name sticks out. So Gaming with Hodder, yes, I remember you. But yeah, so it was a video about who had the best run to the Super Bowl. Obviously, it's because everybody's talking about the Patriots, where they had the easiest run to the Super Bowl, but also, what is it, where now the narrative has shifted to where it's like, well, actually, they have one of the toughest defensive road to the Super Bowl that they've kind of steamrolled, with how good the Chargers defense was, how good that Texans defense was. If they then beat the Broncos and go to the Super Bowl, especially if they face the Seahawks, then it'll be like, oh yeah, they faced 4 of the hardest defenses in the playoffs that any quarterback or team has ever faced, blah, 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 blah. So, Nick Overman says, I don't mind turnovers in the right situation. 3rd and long, trying to make a play downfield. If it gets picked off, it's just a punt. Well, yeah, that was the whole thing with Casino, where one of our most famous clips from this show is the glazing from his knees, where Casino was talking about Drake May throwing a strategic interception, which in that situation it was, but some guy saying the interception was glazed from his knees is probably the hardest I've ever laughed on that show, because it was such a funny phrase. But yeah, turnovers, again, right situations, you're right, they're just punts. But that Brett Favre thing was not a punt, because they were going down the field to try to win the game. And again, they could have at least settled for a field goal. The craziest thing about that Brett Favre play, and again, I've watched it so many times because it always pops up on my feed, that was not like a 4th down, gotta have it, last play of the game. They had like a minute 30 still left in that game. That was like 2 and 7. That was like 2nd and 7. So it was like just a random play, just Brett Favre made, where it was like, oh yeah, let's risk it all and throw it into triple coverage on 2nd and 7 with a minute 30 left. They had to go like 10 yards to get into field goal range. That's why it's always best when that one is paired up with that Vikings radio announcer who is just losing his mind and just being like, why would he throw that? Why? Like, why? And he's just crashing out live on the air, which again, why wouldn't he? He did not have to throw that ball. But Nick Overman says, yeah, Favre, he was still young. Well, in the head he was, because that was his last season. But Nick Overman, I've seen him say before, if he saw triple coverage, he just thrusted his arm to still, or he trusted his arm to still be able to make the throw. Bro was a cowboy. Well, yeah, that's why he also didn't he break the interception record with most interceptions ever by a quarterback? Because yeah, and again, it's so funny that Packers fans went from him to Aaron Rodgers, the most turnover prone quarterback ever, and the least like mistake oriented quarterback ever, where it was just night and day, night and day. But what were the other things I said I was going to talk? Oh, the coaching. So the only coach since Wednesday's show that has been announced, which again was just a weird one to me. Well, the even weirder one is, before we get to that, because this one just popped up on the feed, was Philip Rivers is interviewing for the Buffalo Bills head coaching job. That would be one of the craziest season pivots, or I guess career pivots, we've ever seen, where it was like guy was out of football, just coaching his kids' teams, all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden comes back in, goes 0-4, not by his fault. I mean, that's hard for any quarterback to step in and be like, hey, you're playing three of the best defenses in the league, just boom, 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 just coming right back from it. So he went 0-3. They sat him for the last game, and then it was like, all right, well, I'm retiring, I'm heading out. And then it's like, oh, also guy who's never coached before except for his son's football team is now being interviewed for the most coveted open coaching job in the NFL. And it's just like, what is happening with Philip Rivers? What happened with Philip Rivers where the NFL and all these teams were just like, you know what? We need a guy. Let's just call Philip Rivers. That's insane. Insane that he is legitimately being interviewed for the Buffalo Bills head coaching job. And then the other head coaching news was that it was, oh, I just had it. Oh, the other thing with the Bills head coaching thing was, again, Mike McDaniels, we thought, had accepted the Chargers offensive coordinator. We did a TikTok. We talked about that on last week's show, or this Wednesday show. Sorry. We talked about it there, but then it came out where he is, I guess, like not signed on the dotted line because he said that if he can still be a head coach, he wants to be a head coach. So what happens with the Chargers where, again, Mike McDaniels all of a sudden takes the Bills head coaching job? I don't think he has a shot at getting that. I just don't think you can do what he did in Miami, which again, I think that was more of a Tua situation, but still, he got obviously the blame for it because he got fired, or partial blame for it. I just don't think he is a head coaching candidate that is one of those guys where it was like, oh, when John Harbaugh got fired, when Andy Reid a couple of years ago got fired, they immediately got jobs and could have had jobs basically the next day, right? They got their phones were ringing off the hook. To me, Mike McDaniels just didn't feel like that guy. Because again, the whole thing with him is, will people in a locker room listen to him? Will he be one of those guys that, what is it, like, that can be a leader of men? And again, that's the whole thing with Vrabel. That's the whole thing with these big, larger than life personalities like Andy Reid, where it's just like, you either have to be a football genius or you have to be the toughest guy in the room. Think Dan Campbell. And Mike McDaniel, again, it might be the Ben Johnson thing where it's like, oh yeah, he just is the smartest guy in the room. I mean, still, one of the craziest NFL games we've ever seen was where he put 70 points on Denver, 2 seasons ago, where they took the foot off the pedal. And that game, let's say he was really just like, F it, let's go for it, he could have potentially put up 80, 90 points, a record we'd probably never see broken again. So again, I do think Mike McDaniel is a football genius. I just don't know if that translates to head coaching the same way the Ben Johnson thing does, right? If you get Mike McDaniel for the Bills, it would be completely different because it'd be like, oh, it's Josh Allen. They get a couple gadget pieces in, who knows? But if he went to like the Browns and was the head coach, I know he already turned that down, but I'm saying hypothetically, he goes to the Browns, would you be like, oh, they have Mike Daniels now, they're going to do a Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel-esque turnaround, and all of a sudden they're going to be an 11, 12 win team next year? I don't think he has that same sway or cachet. And again, I might be completely wrong about that, but that's just the feeling I get. Um, but he's Nick Overman said, I think they being the Colts or the league, I guess the Bills. The Bills saw how much the Colts team respected him and how much the team was willing to play for him. Talking about Philip Rivers. Might be trying to get a players coach in there like Vrabel. I am actually shocked because again, we see this in the NBA all the time where it's like guys will retire. Next year they'll be an assistant. Year after that, they're just a head coach. Right now, obviously, the NBA, especially when it comes to coaching, is a lot different than the NFL. But I'm shocked we don't see guys like, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, played the league for 20 years. Like how that guy retires, still wants to be a part of the NFL, goes to, Amazon or whatever. But I don't know how we don't have these, journeyman players who have kind of been playing forever, who clearly love the game, like a guy like Joe Flacco, right? Who's just bouncing around from team to team, just always there. How those guys don't, I feel like there's not more of those guys just being like, oh, yeah, I want to be a coach, right? Like we've seen Josh McCown be one of those guys who he went from being a player almost immediately to like a quarterback coach. Like, again, you always want those guys on your team, like a Joe Flacco, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, like a, Josh McCown. You always want those guys on your team as like your second or third string quarterback because they're so good and they've been around for so long at just like helping out the young guys. So again, when you're the coach, all you do is help out the young guys and guys who are younger than you still in the league. So I'm just shocked that we don't see more, I guess, player coaches. And again, look at what Vrabel's doing. Vrabel was a player coach. So again, I'm not saying I wouldn't hire Philip Rivers. I don't know if I would immediately make him his first coaching job in the NFL as head coach, but bring him on as your quarterback coach. Like Philip Rivers couldn't teach Josh Allen something. Like again, guy's been playing forever, just came back from 5 years and put up pretty okay numbers for a guy that hadn't played football in 5 years. But the other head coach we have to talk about is we obviously talked about Brian Flores, who Vikings brought him back. He was a guy that was on a lot of people's, I know, list to be a head coach, but I think he just wanted to stay with the Vikings. And again, I do think that that whole thing with Miami, I do think that is just going to be a point that not only sticks with him, but like other teams where it's like, well, look what happened in Miami. Wasn't it like bullying or something like that? I don't know. That was a weird story. But then his defensive players all stuck up for him. Again, I'm glad for Brian Flores that whether he was the victim or not in that he moved past it. Now he's, up for coach assistant of the year and all that kind of stuff. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and then I will get out of here because I got like 10 minutes left. Ravens have hired Jesse Minter, the former Chargers defensive coordinator, as their head coach to replace John Harbaugh. So it's funny that in order to replace John Harbaugh, went and got Jim Harbaugh's defensive coordinator. Of all the other teams, they got their former employer's brother's defensive coordinator. So the thing with me on this, and I've been arguing with people on TikTok in the comment section. Again, I've never commented on anything in my life. I only argue or comment on our own post. So if you want to argue with me, just go say something on our shorts or TikTok and we'll argue. Usually I argue until I forget. So again, people are still waiting for me to reply. And honestly, I've just forgot because I've never been a social media guy. But when it comes to Jesse Minter, so he is also, what's crazy, only the fourth head coach ever in the Baltimore Ravens history. Now, again, they've only been a team since 96, I want to say 96, 97, one of those years, but still crazy to me that, again, John Harbaugh was there for 18 years. It never felt like he was there for that long, but yeah, again, he was almost there for 20 years, 2 decades. But Jesse Minter will be the head coach. This is the old adage of in the league right now. Obviously, all the rules, all the all the rules, all the playing style, all the kind of teams that have success in this league are geared towards, in terms of coaching, are geared towards the offense, right? Like, and everybody goes, oh, well, look at Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is the outlier because, again, the other three coaches in this league, you look at Seahawks, they got a hot young offensive coordinator. You look at the Rams, Sean McVay, obviously everybody is saying, one of the most gifted offensive minds we've ever seen in the game, right? And then you look at, even in the last round, Ben Johnson, he was like the hottest coaching hire when he was finally leaving the Lions of maybe anybody ever. Every team was trying to get Ben Johnson because of his offensive know-how. And again, that's working in the Bears because of the offensive know-how. I mean, he beat my Eagles basically just by running insane running plays that the old head in Vic Fangio, one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, basically all the players were just like, yeah, we didn't know how to stop it. Like, we didn't know what we were looking at. Like, that's why we go, or that's why all these teams go hot, young, new, creative, different offensive coordinators. So you get that type of output, right? Where you're just all of a sudden, again, Mike McDaniel, you're putting up 70 points on the Broncos. So when you're looking at that, and again, wasn't John Harbaugh, wasn't he like a special teams guy? He wasn't an offensive or defensive coach. I think he was a special teams guy, because I remember in the older Maddens, you could, when you could still hire coaches, I think they brought that back this year, I'm not sure. But I remember in like 2006 to 2009, you could build your coaching tree. And I always remember John Harbaugh being one of the special teams coordinators, but he was a special teams guy. Now he's obviously the coach of the Giants. Minter is a defensive coordinator. So again, I look at who the latest like defensive coordinators to be head coaches are. Mike Vrabel's the one that Mike Vrabel's the one that sticks out. But then you look at like guys like Aaron Glenn, where it's like, yes, I know it's the Jets and I know it's all that kind of stuff, but those coaches, even you look at Robert Saleh, again, with the Jets, but also going to the Titans, and you're just like, you have Cam Ward, and the issue with the Titans was not their defense, but their offense. Like, if they don't get Brian Daboll, let's say Brian Daboll goes to the Buffalo Bills and is their head coach, like, that was the whole thing with Tennessee, where it was just like, oh, it's going to be okay because they're going to bring in Daboll to run the offense, Saleh to run the defense, and then, make the calls at the head coach, and they're going to be fine. And then it's like, yeah, but that only works if you get both of them. Brian Daboll has not signed on with the Titans. So if he goes and is the Buffalo Bills head coach, what do you do if you're the Titans? Obviously, the other choice was Mike McDaniels, but if he's not a head coach, he's just going to the Chargers. So then you're in this weird spot where you're just like, okay, well, we've seen teams. We see the Browns every year. We saw the solid Jets. We saw the Titans where they had the number one pick, where it's like number one defense, top five defense, top five defense. All of them were picking in the top five. Because again, this isn't a defensive league. Defense wins championships, but again, that's after your offense scores points. Because again, the thing is, everybody's picking the Patriots over the Broncos. Why? Because the Broncos defense is statistically better than the Patriots defense in every category this season. The difference is Drake May is an MVP candidate and Jarrett Stidham is a backup quarterback. So if defense won championships outright and you needed no offensive output, then everybody would just be picking the Broncos because you go, oh, they have the better offense. Yeah, but that's not how it works. It's called complementary football for a reason. So now bringing this back to Minter, the head coach of the Ravens, you have Lamar Jackson. And again, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry, you have this great offense that we've already seen in the Greg Roman systems and whoever the hell they had running it last year, where it's like, when you're a top rushing offense, like, you just, again, you get into these shootouts in games. This is partly on Lamar Jackson, partly on whatever offensive scheme it is. That doesn't help you just be this explosive, obviously Bears-esque offense, right? Where it's like, against certain teams, you can run it down their throat 40 times and blah, 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 right? Score or control the clock, all that kind of stuff. But then when you're also in a shootout with the 49ers, again, going back to the Bears, how are you going to put up 40 points? Because again, if you're the Ravens, a lot of those offensive plays last year, it was just like, oh, Lamar Jackson's just, I guess, not going to pass, doesn't feel comfortable, we don't know if he wants to play football. It just becomes one of those things where I feel like to get ahead in this league, you need an offensive mind. And Jesse Minters, they come in and solve the defense and leave the offense out to dry. Well, then it's like we've seen that before. If you have Lamar Jackson, how would you not bring in somebody like, again, I don't think you can bring them in because it doesn't feel like Mike McDaniels was interested in coaching on the East Coast, but how do you not bring in somebody somebody like a Daboll, even though I'm not a fan of him, but again, I think he has offensive, capabilities. He's an offensive coordinator. He helped obviously Josh Allen get to the point where Josh Allen is. So again, I don't know about the Jesse Minters hire, especially as a first-time head coach. I don't know about the Robert Saleh hire. The Kevin Stefanski to the Falcons, I actually love. I think the Kevin Stefanski, again, I think Falcons, with all those teams out of the playoffs right now, I think the Falcons are going to win that division next year. Now we'll see what they do, obviously, in free agency, who they lose, what they do in the draft, all that. Next season's still a long ways away. But of all these moves, I don't know if John Harbaugh can build a team from bottom up, because he was kind of inherited that Joe Flacco and, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. He kind of inherited that team. So again, he came into a great situation and just obviously won that Super Bowl with that team. But yeah, I love Jeff Haley again with the Dolphins. Or Halfley, I'm sorry. We'll see with that one. That one is a complete mystery to me. But Robert Saleh and then now Jesse Minter, I don't know, man. I don't know if in this day and age, hiring a defensive head coach is the way to go. Last comment. Mini Jim says, I enjoy watching your stream while taking my morning dump. Why are you taking your morning dump at my time? It's 2:20. If you're on the East Coast, it'd be what, 5? So how are you just waking up now? Doesn't even make sense. But on that note, this has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'll be putting up the clips on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok, wherever you get our shorts, of me and Casino's pick for who we think's going to the Super Bowl. If you listen to Wednesday's show, you already know Casino is picking the Patriots. It's shocker. I know, the Patriots and the Rams, and I'm actually picking the Broncos in the upset and the Seahawks. So we have both games different. That'll decide who wins the postseason picks, because obviously I dominated the regular season like I have for 2 years now. So now I really have to get out of here. Go like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to get to past 200 subscribers in the 2 weeks leading to the Super Bowl. We're at 187 right now. So go be our last 3 subscribers to get to 200. So this has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. Thank you to everybody who watched, comment, like, subscribed, all that kind of stuff. We will see you Monday with me and Casino talking about the NFC and AFC championship game, everything else that has happened in the world of sports. And on that note, adios.